Welcome back to the Just Nuke IT podcast, learners. You ready for another apocalyptic probe?
Always ready to dive into the end of the world, you know me.
That's what I like to hear. So this week we're switching things up a bit. Double feature. 2 stories, 2 apocalypses. Double the fun, right?
Twice the existential dread, at least. Though I suppose it depends on your perspective.
Fair point. For you, the learner, that means 2 tales of legendary figures facing down the end of everything. First, we've got a Highlander battling an ancient evil.
Set in medieval Scotland, of course. Can't have a Highlander story without the rolling hills and the clash of claymores, right?
Exactly. Then we'll jump over to 17th century France, hang out with the 3 Musketeers for a bit.
And see them grapple with a time-bending threat orchestrated by a familiar foe. Should be a wild ride.
Absolutely. So buckle up and get ready for a double dose of high-stakes action and maybe, just maybe, some surprising twists on history. Let's kick things off in Scotland with Blood Debt to the End of Days. You with me?
I'm right there with you. Lead the way.
Okay, so picture this. A battlefield, centuries after a brutal clan war. Our main man, Hamish, is an immortal clan leader, right? But this isn't your typical medieval skirmish. There's something way off.
Beyond the usual bloodshed, there's this, foul stench hanging in the air, something unnatural, deeply unsettling.
Yeah, exactly. The story really emphasizes that, even comparing it to the regular horrors of war. And then we meet Fiona, Hamish's young relative. She's basically clutching her sword, white as a sheet. Even Hamish, the immortal warrior who's seen it all, is visibly shaken.
Which tells us a lot, right? This isn't just another Tuesday for Hamish. He's centuries old, probably fought in countless battles, but something about this has him rattled.
For sure. And then boom, enter the big bad. This sorcerer, towering figure, shrouded in shadows, covered in glowing sigils. He starts chanting in this, guttural language. It's a full-on supernatural vibe.
And the chanting isn't just for show, right? We see it has a physical effect on Hamish. There's this ancient scar on his neck, a reminder of a past conflict from before his immortality. The scar starts to burn.
Ouch, yeah. So we're not just talking about some random sorcerer. This is something connected to Hamish's past, something he recognizes. The story makes it clear. This is the same magic that destroyed his clan all those years ago. This is personal.
Deeply personal. And when the sorcerer utters that line, the Undying One, you interfere for the last time. Chills, man. Chills. You immediately get a sense of this long, bitter history between them.
Right. This isn't their first rodeo. And then things escalate even further. The earth starts to rumble, but it's not like an earthquake. The story describes it as this deep groan from the bedrock itself.
Like the planet is protesting, reacting to the sorcerer's power. You know, it's one thing to have a villain threaten people, but when the world itself starts freaking out, that's when you know things are serious.
No kidding. And poor Fiona, she's practically a kid, right? The story mentions her clutching her sword tighter, and you can just imagine the terror she must be feeling.
But amidst all this chaos, there's Hamish. Centuries of life, centuries of fighting. You can almost feel the weariness weighing on him. The story even hints at it, the sense that he's tired of endless conflict.
Yeah, but there's also this sense of duty. Like, his immortality isn't just a gift, it's a responsibility.
Yeah.
He's meant to stand against conquerors, against forces that threaten the world. This sorcerer, he fits the bill.
So we've got this immortal warrior, burdened by centuries of experience, facing down a world-ending threat. Talk about high stakes. What does he do? Well, he grabs his claymore, that massive two-handed sword, and basically says, bring it on.
Classic Highlander, right? But there's a twist. He doesn't just rally his own clan. He calls out to the MacKinnons, their ancient enemies, urging them to set aside their differences and fight together. Forget the old grudges. The world's at stake.
That's such a powerful message, isn't it? In the face of true annihilation, old rivalries become meaningless. You've got to find common ground, work together, or everyone loses. It's a lesson that transcends the story,
Totally. And that image, the former enemies standing side by side, tartans and war paint blending together, a united front against the apocalypse, man, that's powerful stuff.
It gives you hope, right?
Yeah.
Even in the darkest of times, there's potential for unity, for overcoming seemingly impossible odds. And for Hamish, it's this culmination of his entire existence. He's gone from settling clan disputes to protecting the world. Talk about a promotion.
Right. All those centuries, all those battles have led to this moment. It's like his whole life. if you can call it that, has been a training ground for this ultimate apocalyptic probe.
And the story ends with him standing there, claymore ready, that determined look in his eyes. You just know he's not backing down, not even from the apocalypse. You get the feeling nothing can stop a Highlander when he's made up his mind.
All right, learners, time to switch gears. We're leaving Scotland and heading to 17th century France. Get ready to hang out with the three Musketeers in One for all through time.
From immortal Highlanders to swashbuckling heroes, talk about variety.
Exactly. This time, the threat isn't supernatural, at least not in the traditional sense. We're dealing with time travel.
Time travel, courtesy of a mysterious artifact, no less. Think less Back to the Future and more like ancient mystical timepiece. Something far beyond the scientific understanding of the Musketeers era.
Yeah, the story describes it as this intricate contraption humming with an unknown energy. And naturally, the Musketeers being the Musketeers, they're arguing about it.
As they do, Athos is suspicious, of course. Doesn't trust anything he doesn't understand. Porthos, I imagine, is wondering if it's worth anything. You know, could they pawn it for a good bottle of wine?
Right. Aramis is the one who's actually trying to figure out how it works, the intellectual of the group. And poor D'Artagnan is caught in the middle, probably wishing they'd all just shut up and go find a duel.
But before they can settle their debate, a nun bursts in, all frantic, begging for their help. And wouldn't you know it, the timepiece suddenly activates.
D'Artagnan, who's holding the thing, feels this humming sensation like it's pulsing with energy. And his gut tells him something's wrong, seriously wrong.
Aramis, ever the perceptive one, figures out that this thing isn't just some random trinket. It has a purpose, and that purpose probably involves time travel.
Which freaks Athos out. He immediately starts warning them about the dangers of messing with time, ripping apart the fabric of reality and all that. But before he can finish, there's this blinding flash of light.
And poof, everything changes. The birds are singing, but the sun feels wrong, different. And then they notice the damage to the convent walls, like bullet holes, musket fire. This isn't their present anymore.
Athos, who's usually so composed, actually curses. That's how you know things are seriously messed up. Aramis, being the brains of the operation, puts two and two together. He sees the damage, the smoke in the distance, and realizes they haven't just traveled geographically. They've gone forward in time.
To a time period that's not exactly peaceful, judging by the signs of war. And the timepiece, it's still humming in D'Artagnan's hand, and his gut is screaming danger. But it's not just random. It's connected to Cardinal Richelieu.
Richelieu, who's supposed to be dead in their time, right?
Mm.
But somehow his ambition, his schemes, they've transcended death. They're messing with time itself.
Which makes you think, doesn't it? Can ambition, that hunger for power, actually become so strong that it reaches beyond the grave? Like it echoes through history, finding ways to manifest even when the person is gone.
That's a chilling thought. So they're not just lost in time. They're facing a ghost from their past, a ghost with the power to rewrite history. And what's Porthos's reaction to all this? He draws his sword.
Typical Porthos. While everyone else is freaking out about time travel and dead cardinals, he's ready for a fight. I guess some things never change, even in the face of temporal paradoxes.
But it kind of makes sense, right? In all this chaos, that familiar weight of his sword, it's a grounding point. It reminds him of who he is, a musketeer, a fighter.
It's a reminder of their bond, too. Their world might be falling apart, but they have each other. And that motto, one for all and all for one, it takes on a whole new meaning when the fate of the world, their world, is at stake.
So there they are, stuck in the future, facing a villain from their past, with the fate of history hanging in the balance. Talk about pressure. But D'Artagnan, he steps up, he grabs that timepiece, looks at his friends, and you know he's not giving up.
He's got that musketeer spirit, that unwavering determination. They're facing the unknown, but they're facing it together. And as the story puts it, one for all and all for one, even if all had just gotten a whole lot more complicated.
Learners, we've covered a lot of ground today. Two stories, two very different apocalyptic scenarios, but both filled with action, heroism, and a touch of the unexpected. What stood out to you?
It's fascinating to see how these legendary figures, the Highlander and the Musketeers, adapt to situations that completely upend their realities. The Highlander, burdened by centuries of life, finding the strength to fight for a world that's constantly changing around him.
And the Musketeers, ripped from their time, but still holding on to their core identities, their loyalty to each other, even as history itself becomes fluid.
Makes you wonder, doesn't it? In the face of an apocalypse, what hidden strengths might we discover within ourselves? What seemingly insurmountable differences might suddenly become trivial?
And just how inconvenient would a time-traveling apocalypse actually be? I mean, would we be able to find decent coffee in a post-apocalyptic wasteland?
Now that's the real question.
Keep those thoughts brewing, learners. Tune in next time for more wild tales from the Just Nuke IT podcast. Don't forget to rate and follow the show for more captivating stories.